In this pure game guide, we'll explain the difference between Endurance and Evasion in Throne and Liberty. They're both very useful stats, but they're more important in PvP than PvE, unless you're playing a tank build. There are three types of Endurance and Evasion: melee, ranged, and magic. You should generally only focus on one because there's not much benefit to building a hybrid. This is because the more you build a single defense stat, the more effective it is. Endurance reduces your chance of being critically hit by a specific damage type. 10 Endurance gives you 1% chance to avoid a crit for every point that exceeds your opponent's critical hit chance. So, if you're facing someone using a crossbow and they have 300 critical hit and you have 500 ranged Endurance, there's a difference of 200 between those stats. 200 divided by 10 is 20%, which means you have a 20% chance to completely evade a critical hit from the crossbow user. This applies to all three damage types: melee, ranged, and magic. While Endurance gives you a chance to avoid crits, Evasion gives you a chance to avoid standard attacks. The ratio is the same: every 10 points of evasion above the attacker's hit chance gives you a 1% chance to avoid a basic attack. Evasion may seem like a better option than Endurance because standard hits are more frequent, but that isn't the case. Critical hits usually take off a big chunk of your health pool, whereas standard hits are easier to heal through and survive. Enduring one critical hit is often much better than evading a few standard hits. For PvP, a good rule of thumb is to focus on Endurance until you transition to tier 1 gear sets, after which you can switch to Evasion. This is because you need a lot of evasion to really make it worthwhile, and there simply isn't enough evasion on earlier gear. When you start the endgame, pair your Endurance with powerful defensive traits like those that increase your maximum health, and it can make a huge difference to your survivability in PvP. Don't worry too much about Endurance and Evasion in PvE unless you're playing a tank. Instead, focus on PvE-oriented traits like cooldown speed, mana regen, movement speed, and attack speed. If you do need to build defences, though, Evasion is better for PvE. World bosses and powerful PvE enemies tend to critically hit or heavy hit less often, so Endurance would be wasted. Evasion, on the other hand, will reduce the overall damage you receive from bosses and other enemies, making it the better stat for PvE overall. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to Pure Game Guides. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.